Today's lesson is over relations. A relation is a set of ordered pairs, okay? And a set just means a list of ordered pairs. They don't have any connection between each point. It's just a list of random ordered pairs, okay? A relation can be represented by a set of ordered pairs, which we just talked about, a table, a graph, or a mapping. So we all should have seen what a table before, a graph before, and the only one that we may not have seen before is what's called a mapping. Okay, and we'll get to that in just 1 minute. So here we have a set of ordered pairs, basically a list, right? So together, these three ordered pairs are considered a relation. Okay? So we're going to take this relation and we're going to represent it now as a table. We're going to have a column of x's and a column of y's. We're going to take that and put it accordingly in the right column for each ordered pair. So the ordered pair is 1, 2. Therefore the x would be 1 and the 2 would be y. So I'm going to put 1 and I'm going to put 2. The next ordered pair is negative 2, 4. The x is negative 2. The y is 4. And lastly, my third ordered pair is 0, negative 3. So 0, negative 3 goes in the x and then the y. Now I'm going to take these set of ordered pairs, or this relation, and put it into a graph. I'm going to plot the point 1, 2. So if we remember from yesterday, 1, we go over on the x-axis, which is the horizontal axis. I'm going to go over 1, and then I'm going to go up 2. Then I'm going to do the same thing for the next ordered pair, except I'm going to go over negative 2 on the x-axis, and then I'm going to go up 4. And lastly, I'm going to go down over 0 and then down negative 3. I'm not going to connect these points. I'm going to keep them independent from each other. I'm not going to make a line or a curve because this is just a set or a list of ordered pairs. Doesn't mean they make a line. And lastly, we're going to look at a mapping. A mapping is just another way to take this same information and put it in a different way. Okay? To make a mapping, you're going to first draw one oval, and then you're going to draw another oval. These two ovals represents the x's and the y's. Okay? You're going to list all your x's in this mapping. So 1, negative 2, 0. Now you're going to list each y in this oval. 2, 4, negative 3. And then you're going to draw an arrow that corresponds which x to which y. So 1 goes to 2. So I'm going to draw an arrow from 1 to 2. Negative 2 goes to 4. So I'm going to draw an arrow. And lastly, 0 goes to negative 3. Let's say we had a fourth point, 0, 4. We're going to take, if we did, we would take an arrow from 0 also to 4. And that's okay. We can have two arrows coming from each point of the x. However, we don't have that other point, so on your paper, you should only have it look like this. So now that we know what a relation is and how we can represent that, whether it's a list of ordered pairs, a table, a graph, or a mapping, we're now going to do that for your own example. So we have the example 3, 2, negative 1, 4, 0, negative 3, negative 3, 4, negative 2, negative 2. So you're going to take this relation and you're going to make a table, a graph, and a mapping from it. So when you make a table, you're going to make an x and a y column. So you're going to list every x. So we have 3, negative 1, 0, negative 3, and negative 2. So 3, negative 1, 0, negative 3, and negative 2. Then you're going to write every y. 2, 4, negative 3, 4, negative 2. 2, 4, negative 3, 4, negative 2. There's my table. Now we're going to make a graph. So you'll have to draw a graph, make it as good as possible on your paper, and you're going to graph each point. So I'm going to make each one of my axes go up by 4, or over by 4. So my first point, we go over 3 and up 2. My next point, -1 up 4. 0, -3. -3 up 4. And lastly, over -2 and down -2. Again, we do not want to connect these points. They are all just a list of separate ordered pairs. And lastly, we're going to write our mapping. So we're going to draw an oval, we're going to draw another oval, and we're going to list our x's and our y's. In this case, if we have an x or a y that repeats, we do not want to repeat it in the oval. So my x's, we have 3, -1, 0, -3, and -2. My y's, I have 2, 4, -3, 4 again, but it repeats, so I'm not going to rewrite it in this oval. And lastly, -2. Now I'm going to draw an arrow that corresponds each x to the y that is in its ordered pair. So 3 goes to 2, -1 goes to 4, 0 to -3, -3 to 4, and lastly -2 to -2. So this is the mapping for this relation. Now we're going to determine the domain and range. Okay? The domain is always the x values of the relation, or of a set of ordered pairs. The range is always the y values. So the way that we list the domain and the range is what's called these braces. Oop, that's not a very good one, so let's try that again. Okay, they're braces. So now I'm going to list all the x in numerical order. So from smallest to largest. So my smallest x is -3. Then -2, -1, 0, and 3. And I'm going to close it off with my bracket, or my braces, sorry. And then lastly, I'm going to do my range, so the same way. So I'm going to draw a braces, or a brace, and you're going to go in numerical order from smallest to last, or smallest to greatest. So my smallest is -3, -2, 2, and 4. Again, I do not want to repeat my values. And also remember, least to greatest. All right, so that is a relation on the back side of your paper. You're now going to do that again right here. Okay, you are going to use this information about bald eagles, determine the domain and range, graph the data, and then you're going to find out what conclusions you might have from the graph. So take about 3 minutes and do that.